September 1st, 1939. German armored columns crossed the Polish border before dawn. 53 divisions. Over 1 million men. The Luftwaffe strikes airfields in the opening hours, catching aircraft on the ground before pilots can scramble. Warsaw burns, and within 35 days, the country is divided between Germany and the Soviet Union. The Second World War has begun. What follows lasts 6 years and kills somewhere between 70 and 85 million people. Entire cities erased. Navies sunk. Armies encircled and starved into surrender. It's the largest, most destructive military conflict in recorded human history. But let's change one thing. The year is still 1939. The grievances are still real. The territorial ambitions remain. The breakdown of collective security arrangements, the miscalculations of deterrence, the nationalist governments convinced their militaries can achieve what diplomacy has failed to deliver, all of that stays. But every weapon, every platform, every doctrine belongs to 2025. The armies of the Second World War are replaced by their closest modern equivalents. Russia, not Nazi Germany, is the principal revisionist power in Europe. China occupies the role Imperial Japan played across the Pacific. The United States, the United Kingdom, France, and the broader NATO alliance fill the position of the Allied coalition. The substitution is not perfect. It never is, but the question is serious. What does this war actually look like when you run it forward 8 decades? Russia in 2025 fields approximately 900,000 active duty soldiers. Its armored force includes around 3,000 operational T-72, T-80, and T-90 series tanks backed by self-propelled artillery systems like the Su-19 M-S with a range of 29 kilometers. The Su-35S and Su-34 form the backbone of its tactical air arm. The S-400 surface-to-air missile system can engage targets at ranges up to 400 kilometers at altitudes up to 30 kilometers. This is the force standing in place of the Wehrmacht. The Wehrmacht, at its 1941 peak, was arguably more cohesive and better led at the operational level, but Russia brings something the original did not: nuclear weapons. Approximately 1,550 deployed strategic warheads. That complication does not sit in the background, it shapes every decision that follows. The opening move. Russia drives into a Baltic state, a country of under 2 million people, a small national defense force, and NATO Article 5 guarantees that have never been tested at genuine scale. Russian mechanized infantry and armor cross the border in a pre-dawn operation. Caliber cruise missiles strike airfields and command nodes in the first wave. Electronic warfare systems attempt to blind communications infrastructure across the target zone. The logic is identical to September 1939. Speed, shock, fait accompli before the alliance can organize a response. The critical difference is response time. In 1939, Britain and France declared war and then did nothing useful for months. In 2025, F-35s from Amiri Air Base are airborne within minutes of the border crossing. NATO's Very High Readiness Joint Task Force begins moving inside 48 hours. The window for a clean fait accompli is measured in hours, not weeks. The air war begins immediately, and this is where the original conflict's shape starts breaking apart entirely. In 1940, the Luftwaffe spent roughly 2,600 aircraft against Britain. The RAF had Hurricanes, Spitfires, chain-home radar stations, and the Dowding system connecting them. It was close, desperately close. The modern equivalent is not close. Russia's tactical air force collides with NATO's integrated air defense architecture for the first sortie. The F-35A carries the AN/APG-81 AESA radar, capable of tracking multiple targets simultaneously while remaining largely invisible to older detection systems. Its radar cross-section is approximately the size of a golf ball. The Su-35 presents a radar cross-section closer to a large appliance. The exchange ratios and beyond visual range engagements would be catastrophic for Russian aviation within days. The Battle of Britain equivalent ends faster, and it ends differently. Before the first tank crosses the border, something else happens. Power grids in Baltic cities go dark, not from bombs, from code. Russia's GRU and associated cyber units have spent years pre-positioning malware inside critical infrastructure across Eastern Europe. Water treatment systems fail, railway switching networks freeze, mobile communications collapse across wide areas. This is the dimension the original war did not have. Cyber operations do not replace conventional warfare, they precede it, accompany it, and outlast it. NATO's Cyber Rapid Reaction Teams and U.S. Cyber Command begin counter-operations within hours of the first intrusions. Some disruption is recoverable quickly, some is not. The civilian populations in the opening theater experience something with no 1939 parallel, a war that arrives inside their phones and power infrastructure before the first artillery shell lands. Simultaneously across the Pacific, China moves. The parallel scenario mirrors Pearl Harbor's logic, but replaces it with something categorically more difficult to defend against. In December 1941, Japan launched 353 aircraft from 6 carriers and destroyed American battleship Roe in 2 hours. China in 2025 does not need carriers to reach U.S. Pacific assets. The DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missile carries a maneuvering warhead and reaches targets at ranges up to 1,500 kilometers. The DF-26 extends that to 4,000 kilometers. The opening strike scenario targets U.S. installations on Guam, Okinawa, and Andersen Air Force Base with a coordinated salvo of cruise and ballistic missiles launched from mobile platforms dispersed across southern China. Platforms that are nearly impossible to locate and suppress before the first missiles are already in flight. The Pearl Harbor analog involves no aircraft carriers and no warning at all. In 1941, the United States entered the war with a GDP smaller than Germany's and almost no military. It built one inside 4 years. Liberty ships at a rate of 1 every 42 days. Sherman tanks by the tens of thousands. B-17s rolling off Boeing's Renton assembly line in continuous production. The industrial mobilization is one of the defining stories of the original conflict. In 2025, the United States enters the conflict as the world's largest economy by purchasing power and the dominant military power by most measurable metrics. 11 aircraft carrier strike groups, more than 180 F-22 Raptors. The B-2 Spirit can reach any point on Earth from Whitman Air Force Base in Missouri within hours. The industrial question is different now. It's not about building a military from scratch. It's about sustaining munitions production rates under conditions where supply chains are contested from opening day. The submarine campaign opens in the first week. Atlantic and Pacific simultaneously. Russian Yason-class nuclear attack submarines carry caliber cruise missiles and are built for extended independent operations far from home ports. Chinese Type 095 attack submarines pursue U.S. carrier groups across the western Pacific. In the original Battle of the Atlantic, German U-boats sank 3,500 Allied vessels between 1939 and 1945. The contest was finally won through convoy systems, long-range maritime patrol aircraft, and the breaking of Enigma. Today, the submarine war runs on different logic entirely. The MH-60R Seahawk helicopter carries dipping sonar, sono buoys, and lightweight torpedoes. The P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft can surveil ocean coverage zones that would have required dozens of 1940s patrol bombers to match. Modern submarines are quieter than anything that sailed in 1942. Modern detection is also far more capable than anything that existed then. The outcome is less certain than the original, not more. NATO ground forces pushing into the contested theater encounter Russian defensive positions built around layered anti-access systems. The Iskander-M ballistic missile system reaches 500 kilometers with a circular error probable of approximately 2 meters, meaning it can reliably strike a specific building. Russian air defense coverage includes S-300 and S-400 systems capable of threatening aircraft at ranges that force NATO aviation to work from standoff distances rather than close air support profiles. The A-10 Thunderbolt, designed specifically to kill Soviet-era armor at low altitude, cannot operate in this threat environment without suppression of enemy air defenses first. NATO's answer is the AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missile, the Wild Weasel mission flown by F-16CJs, and waves of JSAM cruise missiles targeting radar emitters before manned aircraft enter the lethal zone. Ground combat begins only after the air defense network is sufficiently degraded to allow it. If Russian forces hold the city, the battle that follows carries its own modern character. Stalingrad killed approximately 2 million people between August 1942 and February 1943. It was contested building by building, floor by floor, with bolt-action rifles and hand grenades in burned-out factory shells. The modern urban fight uses a different set of tools. Commercial quadcopter drones adapted to carry modified grenades can be operated by a single soldier from a kilometer away without exposing any personnel. The Switchblade 300 loitering munition weighs 2.5 kilograms, fits in a backpack, and can identify and engage a target within a 10-kilometer operating radius. Counter-drone systems use radar and directed energy to destroy small unmanned threats before they reach defended positions. The city still gets destroyed. The civilians still suffer. The mechanism's different. The outcome for the urban terrain is the same. In the Pacific, the island campaign has a modern equivalent running through the South China Sea and the first island chain. Taiwan is the center of it. Chinese amphibious forces include the Type 075 landing helicopter dock capable of carrying 30 combat helicopters and a Marine battalion. The U.S. counter-positioning involves HIMARS rockets artillery designed on Pacific Island chains, capable of firing ATACMS missiles at ranges exceeding 300 kilometers. The original island hopping campaign of 1943 through 1945 was decided by industrial output but carrier aviation and the willingness to absorb catastrophic casualties in contested amphibious landings. The modern version adds persistent drone surveillance, satellite communications, and the ever-present reality that any conventional escalation in the Taiwan Strait carries a nuclear dimension that the Iwo Jima never had to account for. The strategic bombing campaigns of the original war killed hundreds of thousands of civilians and required thousands of aircraft flying into defended airspace with devastating losses to crews. The 8th Air Force alone lost over 26,000 men killed in the European theater. The modern equivalent of strategic attack does not resemble this at all. The BGM-109 Tomahawk cruise missile carries a 450-kilogram warhead to ranges of 1,600 kilometers without a crew on board. The B-21 Raider, entering operational service now, carries conventional and nuclear munitions inside a low observable airframe designed to penetrate the most advanced integrated air defense systems in existence. A single precision-guided JDAM drops from a B-2 accomplishes what required entire strike packages of 1943 bombers to attempt. Precision changes the targeting logic. It does not change the political logic of what gets targeted and why. Here's where the scenario changes in a way that has no original war equivalent at all. The Second World War ended with 2 atomic bombs dropped on a country that possessed none. The decision to use them was made by a power holding a complete nuclear monopoly. The modern version of this conflict involves no monopoly anywhere. Russia holds approximately 1,550 deployed strategic warheads. China is expanding toward 1,000 by 2030. The United States maintains roughly 1,700 deployed strategic warheads. The logic of nuclear deterrence has prevented direct great power war since 1945. In this scenario, that logic does not disappear when the tanks roll. It hovers over every escalation decision, every commander calculating whether the next strike crosses a threshold that triggers a response outside all conventional frameworks. The original war ended when one side ran out of the capacity to fight. This one ends differently, or it does not end at all. The Second World War as it happened was decided by industrial capacity, alliance cohesion, and the catastrophic overextension of 2 powers fighting on multiple fronts simultaneously. Germany attacked the Soviet Union while still unfinished with Britain. Japan attacked the United States while still unfinished with China. The modern equivalents carry the same structural vulnerability. Russia cannot sustain a high-intensity NATO conflict while managing an economy under full sanctions, pressure, and internal political instability at the same time. China cannot absorb the trade disruption of a Pacific war against the United States without consequences reaching inside the government's own legitimacy calculations. The weapons are faster. The destruction is more precise. The kill chains are measured in seconds rather than hours, but the fundamental arithmetic of overextension has not changed since a German armored column crossed the Polish border on a September morning in 1939.